Good morning. Okay, I have to tell you about this movie I saw, and it was so good. It was actually my husband's idea, and I feel like it's a kids movie, and I feel like it's my new favorite. Definitely a tearjerker, and I am not a crier typically. I feel like since having my son, I'm definitely more emotional though. And then I also need to tell you a couple things about ChatGPT, and I have a question for you that I want you to weigh in on. And while we're on the topic of ChatGPT, some things that I was having it tell kind of brainstorm with me because I don't know why. Anyways, we were talking about things that feel illegal but aren't illegal, and I've got a few that I'm thinking you might relate to. And lastly, I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable and talk about tracking calories, weight loss, but not the typical stuff that you're used to hearing. It's definitely going to be a little bit different. So let's start with the first one. The movie that I saw that I absolutely loved was called Wild Robot. I feel like I'm being a little bit dramatic about it, but whenever I hear someone talk about this movie, I am just looking to see their reaction because it seriously wrecked me. I remember being like 30 minutes into the movie and just like bawling, and I seriously can tell you probably the movies that I've cried from. Like, I do not cry. And we were 30 minutes in and I was like, oh my gosh, is this movie like almost over? Because I am already bawling. I feel like it was so relatable. I think that there was one scene that I just loved. It was so good. The robot, her nickname is Roz. I'll try not to give too much away, but she's basically became like the mom of this little goose, and this goose is, not like he's kind of like an outsider, outcast, and he has been needing help learning how to fly and all this stuff, and so Roz was helping him, and I just remember watching Roz go over and over trying to help him and do whatever she could to help him get to fly. That was the only thing, that was like her only purpose, her only mission, and they had been practicing flying over and over, and there was this one scene where she's like, they almost have it, and she's like, let's go again, and that's her only focus, and she, like, mind you, parts, like fluids are falling out of her body, her robot body is kind of falling apart, and everyone's just watching her, and Roz is just like, let's go again, and just like laser focus on her kid and what she wants for him. Isn't that so relatable? I think I'm always trying to make sense of motherhood, and sometimes it's like hard to even like dictate or put my thoughts into words, but it just made me think a lot about sacrifices, and I think that sometimes we think about sacrifices as being something that's sad, like something is being taken away, but you can just see as Roz is sacrificing so much, it feels like purpose to her, and it feels like she's not forcing anything, she wants to because she feels so much love for this little goose. And it's weird, it's like, it's just made me think about how motherhood has you sacrificing sometimes without you even thinking about it. You're just giving, and sometimes it feels like it's just coming so natural, not because we have to, but because we want to. And I'm not saying that like we should be sacrificing our bodies. Roz's body was kind of falling apart there, but it's almost like you kind of get it now. You get it when you're a mom, and however capacity that looks like. I feel like before having kids, I was like, that just, I don't know. I think about all the things that you're gonna lose and not have anymore, and then when you are a mom, it's like, why wouldn't I? And I was thinking about how my husband and I were also watching this documentary on, what was it, 9/11, I think. And I was just thinking about how the soldiers were sacrificing their lives, and, they were leaving their families and they knew that, some of the things that they were going into, that they probably wouldn't be coming back. And I think about how we watched I was watching this and I was so sad for their family, and I was also just thinking how thankful I was and almost like how proud I was, and we just honor them so much, and we're so thankful for the love and the sacrifices that they make for us. And I think it's easy to see that poor person, that poor whatever. It's like we sacrifice and serve because of a deep love that we have for that thing or that person. And while motherhood sacrifices are a lot different than a soldier's sacrifices, I think that it can be easier to start to resent the sacrifices we make. And it can be easy to start focusing on what we're losing rather than what we're gaining. So just going back to the robot Roz, it just felt like she started off as this machine that was so task-driven, didn't have emotions, but as she adopts this goose, she starts to feel deep feelings, and her mission and purpose get bigger. Her job isn't just to complete a task, it's to take care of this goose and do whatever she can to protect his life and help him have a really good life. And by the end, she's almost like a different robot altogether. And I was just, motherhood is like that too. We're changed so much by that love. The version that we are before kids is still amazing, but it just is like the new version is deeper, stronger, and more tender and more like Jesus. I think about how younger Brittany kept thinking about how much work kids were, and she was right. But I think she also didn't know how much that work and those sacrifices would give her more than she was giving up. And you kind of just start to understand just a sliver more of why Jesus sacrificed so much for his children. And it's even hard to comprehend that because, he gave his life for people that weren't even born yet, people that he knew wouldn't love him. And so his mission wasn't to live his best life. It was to live his fullest life so that he could be fulfilled and fulfill his children. So I'm very thankful for motherhood and all that it gives me, even if that includes giving me more emotions and being more of a crier. And sometimes I just cry because I'm more of an emotional person, but sometimes I also just cry because my toddler pushes me to my breaking point, And I had to share this prayer that ChatGPT gave me the other day because I loved it. Sometimes I feel like I'll just be talking to it, and it's really helpful for just like bouncing ideas off of it, and it'll throw me things sometimes that I'm like, oh, that was so good. Here was the prayer that it gave me a couple. Here was the first one. It said, Jesus, parent through me. I don't have enough for today, but you do. Fill my hands, fill my words, be the gentle strength I need right now. And it also said, because it likes to hype me up, it also says, you're doing more Christ-like parenting than you realize. Sitting with a dysregulated toddler and staying calm, that's holy work, which I loved that reminder. Sometimes I'm always racking my brain thinking about what can I do? What am I missing? I'm not doing this. And sometimes it's just being present, being there, sitting with them. That's like one of the most important things you can be doing. And that's not easy. Okay, and then here was another prayer it gave me. I loved this one. It said, Lord, give me your gentleness. Fill me with your spirit. Help me see my child through your eyes today. So good, right? I love ChatGPT for helping me figure out things, or just like talking through it with, I don't know, sometimes I'll just share my thoughts with it, and then we just kind of start, talking back and forth like we're having a conversation, and I'll just get such helpful things sometimes. I think I was asking for some vlog ideas, and one of them was create a list of things that feel illegal but aren't. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, I don't think I can write a whole blog post on that, but definitely make a list. And so as I was writing this out and having ChatGPT help me, I realized that everything feels illegal at the grocery store, and specifically self-checkout. So here's what I have. When I'm at self-checkout and putting the groceries in my bags and scanning them, I realize that anytime I make eye contact with the person that's watching over all the self-checkout stands, I immediately feel like they just thought that I was in the act of stealing something, and it's all over. Another one is when I'm all done bagging everything, I will usually put my wallet in the bag at the end, and I usually am like very dramatic about it, like lifting up my wallet higher than normal and then putting it in the bag so they can see very clearly, this is just my wallet, not another grocery or anything like that. And then there's been times where I've forgotten something. I know that never happens to you. And sometimes as I'm actively checking out, or I just finish and like pay, I'll realize, oh, I forgot this one thing. And there's no way I'm gonna turn around and go back into the store with all of these bags, because I know that cashier is watching me like a hawk. I will 100% go straight to my car first, put all the groceries back, might even go home first, and then go back to the store and pretend like everything is normal. Another one is taking 2 samples at Costco, and ChatGPT said this, and pretending to be surprised by the second one. Like, maybe I'll finish all of my grocery shopping and then go back the second time, and we'll just pretend we just got here the first time. And then the last one is opening a drink or a snack for Luke and in the cart before paying. There's been a handful of times where I have just wanted to give him a snack, and I'm like, oh, we have to pay for these first. I can't just give you some. And if I do, I feel like I have to tell people that I walk by, I will be paying for this. We are paying for this. Okay, and here's another thing that feels illegal, but it isn't. And that is just learning how to lose weight in a healthy way without spending like $200, $300 a month on some product or a type of food or bars or something like that. Because literally it feels like, I swear, it feels like that's the only way to lose weight. Normally I would shy away from this kind of topic. It's just such a heavy topic. I know it can be triggering. I know that it can be, there's so much noise on this topic, and with social media, I think that can be a downside of it, we can just be easily sucked into or convinced on things, and we try things, and weight is just one of those really touchy subjects where we can be very vulnerable with it, and and then we try different products, we try different things and don't work, and it's so defeating. It's an emotional topic. But with all that to say, I feel like I have learned some incredibly helpful things that I just feel like I can't keep this information to myself, and I love it because you don't have to buy anything. There's an app that I have a paid version for, and that's like literally all I'm doing. And I have a scale, and I'll get into a couple things, but the things that I've learned have like been life-changing to me, and it's just because I understand things a little bit different, and that's just, I think that's been a huge missing piece is, we've been marketed things to us of, here, this is what'll work, and it might work for some people, it might not, and we just kind of don't know, so we're trying, and we get in this cycle of feeling so hopeless, and then we see something and we're finally like, okay, maybe this will be it, and it gives us that little sliver of hope again, and it gets into that vicious cycle, and we never once were explained why this might work, why it might not work, what's going on with our bodies, what's it doing. So I think that some of the things that I'll share with you will just if this is a topic that you struggle with, I think that it will bring a lot of hope to you. And and if the worst case, you probably won't waste any money, because everything that I tell you is free except for an app that you could buy free. You could even use the free version. Okay, before I get into some more like knowledge things, I just had to share this one mindset tip that I heard someone explain it, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's a good way to think about it. And they just said, try to think about it as weight release, not weight loss. And that's just because when we lose something, our brain is always looking to find it. And so, if you lose your keys, you're going to try to find your keys. You lose, I don't know, your glasses, you're trying to find your glasses. So thinking about it as weight release is, and I don't go overboard, I'm always still calling it weight loss, but sometimes I'm always catching myself like, okay, yeah, I'm trying to release the weight, I'm ready for it to go, I don't need it to come back. So I just thought that was cool. It might be helpful for you, maybe not. Anyways, moving on. So a little backstory. I used to do I've tried a lot of different things. I tried that Optavia, and I just learned, when I was looking into all of this, I just learned 3 weeks ago that what I was doing was 800 to 1,000 daily calories. And oh my gosh, I am so sad for my body and what I did to it with that few calories. So if you haven't done Optavia, it was these really small meals that you would do every few hours, and it was a packet that you mix with water. And I obviously I lost a ton of weight and gained it all back and more, which is a lot of what these kinds of diet things are. You're gonna lose a lot of weight when you have that few of calories. So, but you're doing so much more damage to your body, and that's why when you stop those things, they're so unsustainable, and your body is in a survival mode that when it finally gets what it needs, it's gonna overcompensate. And so, yeah, gosh, I was just horrified when I saw how little calories I was getting each day when I was doing that. That was before my wedding. So, there's, I don't know if you can relate, but there might be a big event like that, and where I'm okay, I just want to lose this many pounds, and I can do this for a short period of time. But it's just never, I didn't know at the time, I thought that would be, once I lost that weight, then I would figure out how to keep it sustainable in the long run. But that completely changed what I ate in a day. And I just think about what was I thinking? How was I thinking of what would I do when I didn't use those anymore, So here's one of the biggest things I've learned is stop trying to do everything under the sun until you have all of your foundations first. So your foundations are sunlight, movement, sleep, getting enough food, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. I have learned so much from this girl I follow on Instagram. Her name is Ash, and I will link her account. She has a free foundations guide, and she has just completely transformed how I understand this topic and a lot of topics when it comes to health. So that once I had my son, who's 2.5 now, once after I had him, it was a good time, I feel to focus on nourishing my body. And that's when after we were kind of out of the newborn stage, even then, but I was thinking about sleep, I didn't get very much sleep in the newborn stage, but that was a really good time to start focusing on all those foundations. And I remember, being okay, right now I'm just trying to get 7 hours of sleep a night. And then once I felt pretty good about that and adjusted my habits a little bit, I gave it a month or so. And then I was okay, I feel good about that new habit. Now let's try to get more steps in. And once I started tracking a lot of this stuff too, I was really mind blown with how different the numbers came out than what I was expecting. Like for example, I move around a lot throughout the day. I do work from home and it's a sitting job, but I'm still constantly moving around the house, always doing stuff. And I would think I would get like 5,000 steps a day maybe, and I was getting like 2 to 3,000 when I was tracking it. So, and then sleep, I thought, okay, if you're asleep from 10 to 6, then you're getting 8 hours of sleep. And I would track it and it was like, you got 6 hours and 15 minutes of sleep. And I was like, oh, really interesting. So that was really helpful. I'm not a huge fan of wearing like an Apple Watch. I have a Fitbit. I just don't love how, you've got constant EMFs right there on you, but it's been really helpful for understanding that. I don't know if I'll always wear, I did get a pedometer for tracking my steps, like an old school one for $15. I love that, but I was really interested in tracking my sleep and things like that too. So like I said, I don't know how long term I'll do it, but I've been using a Fitbit for like almost a year now, and I just love being able to understand and track everything. And I feel like right now the benefit outweighs the risk, and I hope that we'll see how long I use it for. But that's just a side note. Okay, so foundations. I didn't even think about, because I had a baby, obviously what's on my brain is nourishing my body and getting my body back, right? And so I was following Ash at this time, and I just loved how she was always focusing on getting your foundations first. So I really made that a priority. I really worked on that for like a year, and if not more. And then I don't know, I kept thinking like, okay, now if I get more movement in, maybe I'll lose weight. Now if I do this, maybe I'll lose weight. And my weight was honestly pretty much staying the same, which I guess it's great that I wasn't gaining more weight, but I just always was like, what else am I missing? What more do I need to try? So I came across Ash on Instagram sharing about weight loss, and that what she had shared completely transformed how I was thinking about all of this, and it gave me some hope. And she had said, it sounds so simple now when I will repeat it, but let me just say it. She said, if you think you should be losing weight, what makes you think you should be losing weight? And she was saying, you are not above science. The only way to lose weight is to be in a caloric deficit. And so, do you know that you're in a caloric deficit? And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. I have never tracked my calories. And so I know it's not as simple as that, because there's a lot more that goes into it, but on the other hand, it is. And so it made me like, my mind just was like, oh yeah, like I'm doing all of these things, but I'm not doing the most basic thing of like tracking what I'm eating and seeing how many calories am I consuming, how many am I burning, all of that stuff. And so, like I said, it seems so basic, but she was sharing how most people that she works with, they have never tracked their calories, and I'm right there in the same boat. And so that's why when I say everything is free, because all I did was pay for the app, and I have been able to sustainably lose the weight just because I am aware of the calories that I'm eating. It was crazy. So I started tracking, and then I realized, I was like, I'm definitely probably eating enough to maintain, or over consuming a little bit. And so I just started, I did this, I think the first day really I started tracking, and I eat pretty similar, I have a pretty good understanding, because I'm eating a lot of the same things, or a variety of things, and my portions are similar. So that first day as I was tracking it, I automatically knew, I was like, yeah, I'm probably eating around here. And so I just started in a caloric deficit within that first day or two, because I knew that's one of the biggest things. I knew I was eating enough calories so that I could be in a healthy caloric deficit, and that's huge. I've learned that a 500 calorie deficit is kind of like the max that you want to do and you don't want to do that for more than like 2 to 3 months. And you don't want that deficit to be like, right now my caloric deficit, I'm still eating like 1900 to 2000 calories a day, because you don't want to be eating such a small amount of calories that like your organs start to shrink when you don't get enough calories. It makes things so much worse, and you lose muscle as well. And so, all this that I'm learning is how to do it in a healthy way that's also sustainable, and it takes a lot more time. But isn't that so much more worth it in the long run, especially when we know now, we've seen over and over and over again, and we've probably tried over and over again ways to lose weight that we've learned are not working and making our body worse off. And so it's like think about if you are baking a cake and you need it to get done faster, so you turn up the heat and it comes out looking like it's done, but maybe it's got some burnt edges and the inside is still raw. And that's like your body. When you try to do things fast and try to get it done as fast as possible, you're gonna come out damaged in the long run, So if you do have weight to release, I feel like just really trying to think about it from a different mindset, not coming at it from a let's do everything we can to get rid of this weight. It's more like we're trying to focus on real changes and that happens by first starting with a good base of nourishing our body before we even go into a caloric deficit, and then continuing to nourish our body throughout the process so that it can, release the weight that it needs to release, but in a safe and healthy way, so that we are better for it in the long run versus being damaged, or just having more issues and things like that in the long run. So I am not an expert on this. This is just a few things that I've learned. And tracking my calories, I've been tracking it on an app called Chronometer, I believe is how you say it. And I used, I think it's called TD Calculator, to figure out what my maintenance calories looks like for my height, weight, age, things like that. And then that app has been great. I think tracking my calories, I didn't do it. I was so I was not interested in it because I was like, it's gonna be so hard to track those calories or track those macros and things like that. And this app makes it so easy. It's why I got the paid version, because you can literally enter in and like copy the link of a recipe, tell it how many grams I'm eating of this recipe, and it will track all your macros for you. And a little tip, I just use a scale and track the grams for pretty much everything. Like if I'm gonna have some chicken, I'll just put it on a scale, how many grams of chicken. I've always struggled with trying to like count it with like, okay, you need a fistful of this and a handful of this. I'm like, that varies so much, and that was hard for me. I think that's what turned me off a lot, because I was like, the chances of this being accurate is really slim. Like if you're estimating everything, you're gonna be off a lot. And so I love tracking in grams because I know that's like pretty accurate, and I'm not crazy about it. Like the little things I don't track, like onions, vegetables. I've learned a lot of those don't even have that many calories. So I don't know if it's all vegetables. I don't know, just the ones that I've looked at don't make a huge difference. So if I'm gonna do a lot of like carrots, I'll put that in there, but I don't worry about like the 100 or so calories that I'm getting throughout these little things. That makes it just less stressful, a little bit easier, and it seriously is like another 5 minutes out of my day. The first week it took me a little bit to get the hang of it, and then it comes so naturally and so easy, and it is like life-changing. Have I been dramatic enough about this? Okay, I hope this is so helpful for you. If you have more questions, let me know. I'm loving sharing what I'm learning about this, and I hope it just gives you some peace and hope about this topic and makes you feel a little bit better about it. Like I said, I am probably like a month and a half into this right now, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens when I come back out of the caloric deficit and see what it looks like. But I'm not changing our diet very much. I mean, our diet is pretty decent, I would say. I'm sure there's a lot of ways I can improve it, but I've been eating a lot of the same things we're already eating, just having those smaller portions and paying attention to the serving sizes, little things like that that sound maybe kind of silly and like you don't want to do it, but it's probably not something you're going to do forever. You know, I'm like gonna be a little bit more careful while I'm trying to be in this caloric deficit, and then when I come back out of it, because I feel like it'll take me a while to figure out, or a little bit, to see what does it look like to have a maintenance calorie throughout the day and not over consuming, not under consuming, things like that. But I feel like when you're doing this in a more sustainable way, your body is able to adapt, and it's not gonna be like so thrown off if you have ice cream one day, or who knows, you're able to be more flexible, and your body is already set up in such a great spot because of those foundations. And that is like the biggest thing. So do not do this until your foundations are in, like, pretty dialed in first. I hope I mentioned that enough. Oh, and side note, I don't think I mentioned that I am also trying to get around 6,000 to 7,000 steps a day as well. If I wasn't getting all of those steps in, it would probably be a little bit harder to be eating. You'll have to play around with your calories, but I think it's still important to keep doing all of those foundations even throughout this. I'm still trying to especially keep the movement going as much as I can, without overdoing it, of course. And I'm still doing strength training too. From what I've learned, it is really great to keep doing that, and it also helps your body know that you're trying to lose the fat and not the muscle. That is all I have for you. Thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning while I got ready, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.